I'd been awake for probably 12 to 13 days at this point, and I was sitting on a floor of a bathroom in a dirty, dingy apartment in Toronto. I had a razor blade to my wrist, and I had a lot of crack cocaine around me. I didn't want to live anymore. I had nowhere else to turn. I'd burnt every bridge that you could imagine when it comes to family and friends, loved ones, the people that are supposed to be there for you, and etc. And I had robbed from them, stole from them, lied to them, cheated them out of something. I was never there. I had cried out to God. I'd grown up with a Catholic faith. And I knew that, if I committed suicide, I wasn't going to heaven. And that scared me. And I got up and I looked in the mirror, and it was my mom looking back at me. My whole life I was told that you are your mother's daughter. I hated it with a passion because I wasn't my mother's daughter. I was Monica. I was going to go places and I was going to do things. I backed away from the mirror and I threw the razor blade in the garbage, and I picked up all the drugs and I flushed them down the toilet. And I called my mom. And that's when I went to my mom's house to get help. She continued on with her addiction, and I left, and I got pregnant. I met a boy on the streets of Toronto, and I got pregnant. I left high school because I was bullied, because I was gaining weight, and I had, lost my virginity, and etc. And it just, the names and stuff weren't the greatest, and I decided to opt out of school. I was 16 when I got pregnant, 17 when I had her. And I gave her up for adoption. And that was hard. It was really hard. Mom was too far into her addiction at the time, so there was no communication there. She didn't even really know what was going on. And it was just full speed ahead. Drugs and alcohol and nightclubs and street life, and I was selling drugs, I was doing drugs, I was experimenting here and there with what we call the softer drugs, and then of course, that being the gateway to the harder stuff, I ended up trying harder. It was my rock bottom. I had nowhere to go, nowhere to turn, no friends. Fast forward a few years and I get pregnant again with my youngest daughter. And I continue living the street life for a little bit, and then realize, I'm not going to have an abortion, and I'm not going to give up another child for adoption, because there was no way I was going to go through that again. So I ended up deciding to get a place to live and get a job and have a child with my daughter's father and be a good mom. And that lasted for a few years. I think my daughter was 3 when I was introduced to crack cocaine. I didn't want to go to treatment centers anymore because I'd already been to 5. I called around to so many. I had my name in a whole bunch of different ones, like, down east, out west, and here in Ottawa. And the first one to call me back and do the intake was the Ottawa one, and they said that it would probably be about a week to 2 weeks before I'd get in. And I think it was like a couple days later, and all of a sudden my dad's driving me from Alliston, Ontario to Ottawa. I slept the whole way. I stayed at Empathy House for 3 months to the day. I got there October 16th of 2009, and I left January 16th of 2010. I knew I had to do something with my life. I didn't know how to live. How do you become a productive member of society if you didn't finish high school? All the doors are closed. So I knew I had to go back to school. I tried a computer course at Algonquin, but that just wasn't working for me. I didn't know which way to go in life, and I knew there was St. Nicholas Adult High School. I'd been told about it quite a few times, and I had applied at St. Nick's. My teacher was Richard. I loved him so much. We used to banter back and forth because I'm a Leafs fan and he's a Habs, and it just, I tried to bribe him with Habs tickets sometimes. When I first got to St. Nick's, I had 12 credits. I'd only gone halfway through grade 10. So I had a lot of work to do. And it was challenging because, I had gone through a hepatitis C treatment. I had had my appendix bust. My mom had passed. My daughter's father had committed suicide. I had back issues. Like, it seemed like it was just never ending, that no matter whatever I was trying to do to better myself, it seemed like there was one blow after another. But I stuck to it. And at first it was Richard, who I adored. And then I got Julie, who I loved. Julie helped me so much. But I was still very self-conscious, and I didn't think that my grades were good enough. And then I ended up with Natalie. And she gave me so much self-confidence. I remember, I don't know how many times I would get 100% on an essay or an assignment or something, and I'd be like, what? And I'd email her, did you make a mistake? Because that can't be right. I don't get 100%. And I don't know how many times she'd be like, Monica, I wouldn't give it to you if you didn't deserve it. And so that boosted my confidence. But then it became like an OCD type thing. I just couldn't stop. I had to have nothing less than 100. And when you grow up and you don't have any self-confidence and you don't know how to deal with certain issues, and you're faced with all these different things in life, it's just regular life things. But when you don't have the means to deal with certain things, it's tough. And I can't believe that in under 2 weeks I'm going to be walking across the stage at 39 years old with a cap and a gown. It's been 23 years in the making, and I did it. And the very last portion of it, I did it with basically straight A's. Me. My name is Monica Higgins, and against all odds, I made it.